We now return to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute, the radio show discussing the honest truth about Illinois policy and politics. Here's AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with John Tillman, President and CEO of Illinois Rising, Illinois Policy Institute.
I got a promotion
On this edition of Illinois Rising. You have enough titles.
That's
you don't need to be President of Illinois Rising on top of Illinois Policy Institute. So we were talking about the constitutional amendment to graduate the state income tax that was defeated, but this has come back a couple of times. They're
relentless.
Yeah, at least Democrats, at least at the leadership level, the Madigan and Cullerton level, really are interested in taking a bigger bite out of people's paychecks. And to go from a kind of a political or policy perspective to just a reality on the ground perspective, we're pleased to be joined now by Pete Paulin. He is the owner of a small business in the Decatur area called 300 Below. 300 Below. His business helps industrial companies across Illinois and the world extend the life of their equipment by putting it through a cryogenic freezing process. And I wonder if he could, maybe get his hands on a Ted Williams or a Walt Disney while he's at it. Pete Paulin, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Greetings. We don't do mother-in-laws either.
Yeah, you get that question a lot, do you? Yes.
That is well played.
So, as you were watching, as a small business owner, as a job creator and a wealth producer here in Illinois and Central Illinois, as you were watching the run-up to the vote in the House this past week about graduating the state income tax, increasing taxes on you, effectively, what were you thinking as you were watching this be debated?
Scared the dickens out of me. It really, truly did. And literally, unsolicited, not 5 minutes ago, I had an employee just came into my office and said that he didn't have enough money for food or gas. When I asked him why, he said, Pete, I had to write checks out of my paycheck for Obamacare, and he said, I literally don't have any money left. And for us, as a business, we work about 11 and a half months out of the year just to make our expenses. We effectively work the last 15 days of December for profits, and that gives us about a 6 or 7% normal profitability, which we then use to rehire an employee or whatever, expand a couple new computers. And what would happen under this expansion of tax is it eats into me so that we're down to about 6 or 7 days of profit for the year. And as a result, at some point, you just say, that's the straw that's going to break the camel's back. We need to go to Arizona or some other state.
Well, Peter, you've really well explained how the marginal taxation, which is what the graduated or the progressive tax rates do, where as you make more money, they take a larger and larger share of your money. And, of course, they argue that this people who make more should pay more. But the way it works in a small business like yours is it takes away your investment in people and the equipment that people use to compete with the world, China, Europe, Asia in general. And
absolutely does. And one of the biggest challenges for me is, like most families, my wife works too. She makes a good living. And so by the time we get through combining, because I'm an S-Corp, moving that combined income in, I'm actually penalized because of her income. So my rates go up as a combined income. And it's just not fair and equitable. It's grossly divisive for us.
Well, and since you're in the Decatur area down there in Macon County, Central Illinois is struggling. I mean, Illinois is struggling as a state, unemployment rate 20% higher than the national average. But communities that around the location of your business are really struggling and have been for a while. And I wonder what you think kind of the long-term prognosis is for that region of the state, absent some more friendly business policies.
Well, it really is remarkable. Over 25% of our town is in hard poverty, and we're one of the success stories. I started literally with $400. We were broke, out in the cold, had no money whatsoever. Now we process over 1 million pounds of steel a year and have created jobs in the community. But my favorite Illinois cartoon is kids coming up to the door trick-or-treating, and the man at the door looks in the bag and says, "Oh, look how much candy you have. I'm going to take half and give it to the kids that are too lazy to go out and go trick-or-treating. And it just is so poignant to us because we're one of the success stories, yet when they see that, they come in and say, oh, here, let's take your profits and we'll reallocate those to other people that are more needy. So it just doesn't work.
Pete, you and I have known each other for a while, and I just want to tell you how much I admire what you do. One of the reasons I got involved in public policy and politics is because of people like you who take that risk, lay awake at night wondering if you're going to make a payroll or make a mortgage payment. And everybody loves the entrepreneur when they're in their basement struggling to get out, and you've gotten out, and I just really admire that. But God forbid that you make it to the penthouse with a modest success that are coming after your paycheck with a progressive tax. It's really outrageous.
It really is hard, yeah. And so whatever we can do to help support it, I'm very grateful for all the work that you've done because it's quite a machine over there in Springfield that is headed way down the wrong track.
Is there any particular policies that you think would, in terms of rank order priority, that you think would really jumpstart the entrepreneurial capitalist set in Illinois if they were advanced?
Well, sure. And again, it can't be overstated enough that what you're doing is really, truly significant. It's a matter of life or death for us as a business here because all we have as working capital is that excess dollar in profitability to be able to then put that back into a new payroll, a new computer, a new piece of equipment. I can't go into debt and then have them come along and say, oh, congratulations on going in debt further. Now that you've made more money, we're going to take even more of it. It really is a cycle that beats us up horribly. So what you're doing is huge and is literally a saving grace for us.
There's some simple things that will help a lot of businesses. It seems to me it should be so obvious that workers' comp reform should be a bipartisan solution, particularly because a lot of the people who benefit from it, everybody benefits from it, but disproportionately, I would say working class, poor people, middle class people benefit from a simple reform like workers' comp, where you still protect the workers and give them a fair treatment if something happens in the workplace, but you don't turn the business owner into a target for unnecessary litigation and harassment. There's just example after example, and I don't know if you've done this, Pete, where people take a look at their business operation and then go get a quote if they moved it over to Indiana, and it's usually an order of magnitude of tens to hundreds to millions of dollars difference in just workers' compensation costs. And think about that.
It actually is.
Yeah, and the point there is that if you free up that cost, that money can be reinvested in hiring people, increasing wages, and buying the machinery and technology you need to compete. And that's so obvious, but Speaker Madigan, who runs the Death Star, seems not to care.
It's very true, not just on workers' comp, but also on the unemployment, because we just received that bill yesterday. Our internal rate here is at 6% because of what we do. It's misclassified, but that really impacts our cash flow, and that is tantamount to 2/3 of our potential in terms of profitability. So major, major impacts on these.
Two simple reforms.
We're talking to Pete Paul, and he's a Decatur area small business owner. The company 300 Below. His business helps industrial companies across Illinois and throughout the world extend the life of their equipment by putting it through a cryogenic freezing process, which is pretty interesting. And when you think Decatur, Pete, you think ADM. And I wonder, what you hear with colleagues in the business community from small to Fortune 500 like ADM about their continued presence in Illinois. It was reported in the last few years that ADM's still headquartered here, but boy, they're not investing in Illinois. They're investing in places like Nebraska and Pennsylvania and Iowa, not in Illinois where their world headquarters is. And so what does that portend about their future in terms of roots in this state?
It's very true. My next-door neighbor is Caterpillar, and the headlines here, we've lost hundreds and hundreds, actually now thousands of jobs with Caterpillar. And oddly, my sister, I was born in Tucson, just sent me a note that said Caterpillar is moving to Tucson with a new 40,000 square foot facility there and some 700 jobs. So remarkable impact that we're seeing. And as that leaves Decatur, those are the upper crust individuals that are responsible for helping support all the local charities. Those dollars are drying up on the vine, including the United Way, and it's really sad to see.
Yeah.
Has a lot of downstream implications for us.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Those downstream implications that are not talked enough about, that are not appreciated until they're realized.
Yeah. Right. Well, and so a note of optimism. For the first time in a long time, we have a governor who understands these things and is fighting for these things. So this is a huge change. It's a huge change from any past Republican governor, whether you want to talk about Ryan, Edgar, Thompson, who are all a partner with Madigan in the corruption and the deal that created this problem. And there is a movement within the state of Illinois to reform the systems. This is not going to be easy, but by you being engaged and taking a leadership role as you have, Pete, I think we can get it back.
And he is Pete Paul, in Decatur area small business owner. The company 300 Below. If you're an industrial company that wants to extend the life of your equipment, then you should contact our friend Pete at 300 Below. Pete, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. Grateful for all you do. Bye-bye.